this is Mesh, and welcome to this review recap of The Walking Dead Season 7, and some of the points around its ratings. So this will contain spoilers, so if you're not up to date, pause this and come back when you are ready. Also, I want to point out, I'm a huge Walking Dead fan, and this video is not a toxic pejorative video, more of a dissection of what may be occurring externally to the show and within the show, and how these may affect the ratings. So let's jump straight in to the audience size and the ratings for Season 7. So some of the headlines I've heard and read around the place are things like worst finale rating in 4 years. Another good one is the ratings for the second half of the Season 7 is worse than the Season 3. But let's be honest here, the ratings amount is still phenomenal for the show. But the show definitely does seem to be developing a downward trend within its popularity and ratings. So let's break down the ratings from Season 7. So Episode 1, Season 7 was a massive success. The second biggest episode of The Walking Dead ever. But like all premieres, it is followed by a steep dip in viewer ratings. Now this dip was pretty severe for Season 7 though. But there's a definite trend that also followed Episode 2 until the mid-season. The mid-season episode was an improvement and seemed to stop the negative trend for the rest of the season. So after the mid-season episode, it seemed pretty consistent for ratings, but still well down on the normal compared to previous seasons. To add to this, there seems to be a trend that is bigger than Season 7 alone. If you look at the ratings posted on a wiki, this shows the show is in a slow decline from the end of Season 4. Whilst the premieres and finales do generally boost the ratings back up, overall it is a downward trend. So The Walking Dead is still insanely popular, but you can't deny it is in a negative trend. I don't believe there's a case to worry about just yet. Also, on another note here, it's very difficult to put your faith in wiki articles and generic clickbait news articles as well. So take all this information with a grain of salt. But let's briefly go over a few episodes in Season 7 and what happened and why it may have caused such a drop-off after that point. So Episode 1, here's a few points to consider. It was a massively popular episode. Would have had a lot of people who don't generally tune in to the show because it had such a massive cliffhanger last time and it made such a buzz on the internet. A lot of non-regular Walking Dead watchers may have tuned in to watch it. So that would have boosted the numbers, which may have added to that decline for Episode 2. Always a natural high point of any season. Would normally be followed by that drop-off, in my opinion as well. Some more points around Episode 1. It was so loved and hated at the same time. Clearly losing some of those favourite characters. So we lost Glenn and Abraham. So big fan favourites there. So that might have, turned a few people off, made them say, I don't want to tune in anymore. Glenn's gone, I'm not going to watch it anymore. Another point here, it may have been too graphic for some people, and they may have said, this is enough, I'm done with the show. And also, perhaps, just a general loss of interest after such a big event like that episode, the premiere. It might be quite natural for people just to be a bit overwhelmed by it and not go back straight away. So these are some of the reasons why Episode 2 may have not been so popular. Now let's talk about why it might have been such a negative trend as well till the mid-season. One point I'd like to highlight. It is a similar trend to what happened in Season 4. So both of these seasons, so Season 7 and Season 4, really see the survivors struggling under immense pressure and ongoing issues. So Season 4 was when the sickness took over the prison. So it had a similar negative vibe of a lot of deaths, very dark, long drawn out episodes. So that seems to be quite similar to Season 7, Negan being such a negative force on the survivors. At what point do people actually just say enough is enough? I've had a rough day at work. I don't want to see this when I get home as well. And characters that they love being in such negative situations. Even in the worst times of other seasons, there's sometimes a glimmer of light which get you through the episode that's not so negative. But definitely when Negan's been around and in the prison, it was very similar. It was pretty dark in those ones. Another reason here, too much Negan. Being such a villain, being hated so much, do we want to see him so much on the screen? Or has Jeffrey Dean Morgan's portrayal of Negan been done so well that you start to associate with the villain himself? I mean, this is a real perspective on yourself, but I've definitely heard quite frequently people say they just want to see Negan's demise. They don't want to see him anymore. So, there's an idea there that maybe it's too much of him. Too many slow, single or double character specific episodes. Now this is a big one for me. There's a couple of episodes here that I'll point out. So episodes where we get a story or a backstory on a certain character, or maybe one or two characters, and we don't see many other characters at the same time. Now I understand why they do this, but I don't like it. I think they're overdoing it with them. So a good example of this would be Swear, the episode Swear. So that's when Tara encountered the female survivors along the coast. Another one here was The Well with Carol and Morgan. Another one was The Cell, so that's the Daryl episode. So these ones, whilst we do have snippets of other characters going on, they're really centric around specific characters. Now, I do like these every now and again, but I thought the first half of this season was very heavy on them. So that might be another reason why it wasn't so popular. Now, a lack of violence is probably the final point I want to point out here. So now this is tricky, because we had Gail Ann Hurd say we had a lot of feedback. There was too much violence. But we've also heard from Scott Gimble and Greg Nicotero, so they're the producers and directors, saying we're not toning it down. So we've got, a conflict here of what's actually going on here. But did this situation possibly do some damage for the Walking Dead fans? Did they hear Gail Ann Hurd say they're toning it down, and a couple thousand people throw their hands up and walk away, saying I'm not going to watch it then, I'm not going to support you if you're going to do this? Maybe that was the backlash that we're seeing. Did this do possible damage to the reputation? That's a possibility. But one point I will add. I saw the information from the quote from Gail Ann Hurd, and I saw that on Trev's channel. If you've not heard of him, he covers a lot of Walking Dead stuff. He sounds like a really stand-up guy, so I'll put the link to his channel below as well, so check him out. So my interpretation, since I heard the information that Gail Ann Hurd said we're toning down the violence, from that point, I've always been second-guessing when I see violence in The Walking Dead. And I'll see a violent scene, and there'll be a cut there where we won't see something graphic, and I'll immediately jump to the conclusion that's been cut out intentionally now, whereas previously it wouldn't have. So is that something which is because of what Gail Ann Hurd has said? So it's an interesting idea that it's hard to know. We have to take them from their word that Greg and Scott are telling the truth, and they haven't toned it down. But there's a feeling in my heart there that I felt that like this season was, apart from the premiere, that this was very toned down in comparison to some others. So after the mid-season episode, we saw the ratings finally flatten out, so they're not in such a negative decline. But it was still far below previous seasons. Perhaps this is just a natural ebb and flow that accompanies this TV show. And going forward, it might just fluctuate depending on its competitors and what content they're producing as well. Or perhaps The Walking Dead has actually peaked, and this show will now continue on for many years, but in a downward spiral, as zombies possibly leave the pop culture scene and to be replaced with something else, or possibly people are just getting bored of the same show after 7 or 8 years. It's all food for thought. So all in all, this is how I interpreted the season, so my kind of little review point here. So what did I think? Comparing it to previous seasons and other TV shows, I thought the premiere was amazing. It was a real emotional roller coaster. But after that, I found a lot of episodes hit and miss. Specifically the single or double character episodes, as I mentioned before. Whilst I do think they're very valid if you want to build on someone's backstory or build a story to someone that's something's going to happen to them, but I think it needs to be paced correctly. And you can still include other characters within those shows, just not making it so centric around one character. It seems to be that they struggle to do that. But I have enjoyed how we're now seeing the survivors starting to fight back against the saviors. And that is what I want to see. And it's been made so much more impactful because of the premiere and those negative episodes that followed. So, in a way, they're building out of this bad situation, and it's very valid. But has it made the season worse for it? Because of this, I'm really excited to see Season 8. So has Season 7 done its job? And maybe now, after this, we're going to see a massive upturn for Season 8. We might see dramatic rises because everyone knows how much damage the Saviors have done. So Season 7, in its quick summary, premiere was amazing. But after that, very hit and miss until the mid-season. Then we see Rick and Michonne starting to prepare and fight back. The acting has been pretty good. The zombies have been amazing as usual. The FX haven't been too bad. Apart from the tiger. The tiger in some scenes looks okay, but in some others it doesn't. Now, once again, the violence, I have felt that it's been toned down. I know that Greg Nicotero and Scott Kimball said they haven't, but because of what Gail Hurd has said, I just get the feeling it has been. So maybe it's just now I'm paranoid about that. But Season 7 did definitely feel like a staging for building up to Season 8. So Season 7 is far from the best of The Walking Dead. I think it's far from the worst as well. It's kind of in the middle for me, and towards the end of Season 7, it definitely starts to get better. But still, it has very memorable episodes mixed in amongst the very average ones as well. So I don't think many people are going to forget that premiere for a long time. But I'll leave this episode here. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Well, let me know your thoughts below. Did you enjoy Season 7? Do you agree with any ideas that I've thrown around here? And as usual, thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you didn't, and subscribe for future content from me. So this is Mesh, and until next time, take care.